Today, I am going to borrow a skill from the DBT manual called coping ahead, and I'm going to apply this skill to competitive equestrians. Now, coping ahead we've talked about in a previous episode, but I want to broaden the scope of how you can cope ahead. And instead of focusing on coping ahead for a competition or a hard day or a clinic, I want to talk to you about how you can use this idea of coping ahead on a day-to-day basis. This is especially for those equestrians that find themselves at the barn almost every day, if not every day. Whether you have your horses at home or in a training program, maybe you're a trainer yourself, this idea of coping ahead will allow you to be a better equestrian, to connect with your horse or horses better. Hi, I'm Makayla, the host of Yoga for the Barn Isle, presented by Callebaut Yoga. I'm an equestrian life coach who specializes in helping competitive equestrians build the connection they have with their horse. So let's get straight into it. The DBT manual is a dialectical behavioral therapy manual. This is from psychology. It is mostly used for women who are dealing with depression, suicidal ideation, among other mental illnesses or mental disorders. I have gone through the DBT manual. I have used quite a few of the practices myself, and coping ahead is one that has always stuck out to me, and I've found that I'm using it in my day-to-day life beyond just the scope of my mental health. And this is especially true for my life as an equestrian with my horse at home. So the idea of coping ahead is really important for equestrians, and I think what they miss is coping ahead by planning days off. Legitimately taking time off. And I don't mean like, oh, my horse has an off day, so they have an off day and I'm good, I'm just not riding, but I'm still gonna do all of these chores because when I'm not in the saddle, then it's time to do everything else I have on my list. You're planning for your horse to cope ahead for hard rides and probably tailoring your riding schedule to when they'll have days off, but you're not tailoring your own schedule to when you'll have days off. And coping ahead might not mean taking days off, although that is my suggestion, but it could also mean knowing what days you're busier and then planning what you're doing with your horse accordingly. So prime example, I am going to the dentist in a few days, and knowing that I'm gonna be at the dentist for a while, it's quite a drive away, and then I'm probably gonna be sore and tired because I don't love the dentist. I know that that's not a day that I'm going to have a ton of energy to give to my horse. So I actually did harder work with him today, and then I'm gonna do a little bit harder work right before so that that day, if I need it, he can have the full day off. Or I can just do something minor with him, like a session of body work or an extra long grooming session. But that's one idea of how I can cope ahead on a day-to-day basis for my equestrian life specifically. I also think there is this huge push to fully accept yourself as an equestrian and the equestrian lifestyle you live. And I do agree with this entirely, but there's a caveat here. And this caveat is especially for those who have their horses at home. Maybe they're taking on multiple horses or they're a trainer. But honestly, it applies to everyone. Just those are the specific subset of people, of equestrians, that I think this is really important for. Try to plan a horse-free vacation. Even if it's just at home and you're not going out to the barn for a day or two. Schedule and delegate tasks on that day. Have people come in to take care of your horse. Ask someone else to exercise them. Maybe your horse just gets a few days off. That's okay too. But taking time away from the barn helps rejuvenate your energy to be an equestrian because it's hard. It's hard being an equestrian and it's tiring. And although we love it, we need to take a step back and take breaks. And I think all too often equestrians will feel really good and they'll go to the barn and they're doing all the things and then it just snowballs. And then they get to a point where they're burnt out. And what do you do when you're burnt out? As an equestrian, usually we put our head down and we keep going, right? But Knowing that as equestrians, we're going to get to this point of burnout means that we should have a cope ahead strategy set in place. So maybe this looks like taking a vacation twice a year or once a quarter, depending upon what's manageable for you, what feels right, what's calling out to you. But this vacation allows you to step back from this caretaker role of your horse, of yourself, in the realm of the barn. But just taking a break for a day or two will allow you to come back with more energy. It's this idea of distance makes the heart grow fonder. And I've seen this in my life time and time again. I will notice that I'm starting to get burnt out, and then it so happens that I tend to have a trip planned. And I'll go, and it's this break from any animal responsibilities because that's what takes up my life. And the first few days, it'll be great. And I'm like, oh, I don't really have to worry about anything. Like, I'm just taking care of myself. This is great. And by the end of the trip, I will always kind of have this nagging feeling of like, I'm ready to get back to it. I'm ready to be a caretaker again. But just taking that step back allows me to remember why I love being a caretaker and why I love having horses in my life. So this might be the same for equestrians, whether your horse is at home or in a training program or whatever the situation may be, but allowing yourself to plan to cope ahead for burnout by knowing you're going to take vacations and doing so when you need them. And this takes a lot of intention and awareness of who you are as an equestrian. I know for me, twice a year, preferably once a quarter, is really when I need to start taking time off and trying to get vacations or time away, whether it's, a small vacation, a big vacation. Just taking time away about once a quarter allows me to keep going. And that's especially true during hard seasons. So like really deep winter seasons and really deep summer seasons are the hardest for me as an equestrian, just because the chores add up, right? So I know coming out of that season, or even if I could get a break in the middle, that will help me come back even stronger. So to end this episode, I want to get you thinking about your own cope ahead strategy. How often should you be taking a break? What does a break look like for you in order for you to come back stronger and rejuvenated as an equestrian? This also means, who are you relying on and who do you trust to take time off? Maybe you are a very privileged equestrian who can take time off because your horse is in a training program under a trainer. You could essentially leave and nothing would really change. But for those with horses at home or as a trainer, it takes a little more thought process. So allow and give yourself the time to fully think this through. Fully understand what steps you need to take in order to allow a cope ahead strategy to take place and take hold in your equestrian life. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the like, subscribe, follow button wherever you're at. And if you're looking for more, follow us on Instagram or hop over to our website, callebautyoga.com. This is where you'll be able to see our next new upcoming course, as well as subscribe to our email list to get VIP access to everything coming your way as a member of Callebaut Yoga's community. The email subscriber list is also where I go when I'm building new courses, and I want to hear feedback from you guys. What you want to see, what you don't want to see, as well as the format, what you want the actual course to look like. So if you want to take part in building new courses brought to you by an equestrian life coach like me, the email subscriber list is where it's at. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your night.